Today's video is going to be looking at my top 15 shooting guards. A handful of these players could be considered combo guards. This is just kind of what I project them to be at the next level. At best, secondary creators for teams. And also, I'm going to be including my big board rankings of these players as well as where they were taken in my latest mock draft. And if you watch my top 15 point guards, the mock draft and the big board has changed some since then, so if there's overlapping numbers, that's why. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started looking at my top 15 shooting guards. My number 15 shooting guard is Montas Rubstavicic. This guy has been a really consistent and efficient scorer at all three levels. I buy the shooting upside. I think that he's already got that pretty figured out. Defensively, kind of a different story. Not great on defense, whether that's on ball or off ball. But I think that the offensive upside is definitely worth taking a swing on and hopefully developing him into a two-level threat eventually. But I do think that that is going to take some patience and could be a long road for him to get that figured out and carve a role for himself at the NBA level. My number 14 shooting guard is Antonio Reeves. Reeves was a real polarizing player at Kentucky. I think that he's a super versatile scorer who, if asked to fill the correct role, could continue being effective at this at the NBA level. I think his jump shooting from three is going to be his strength. He's really versatile, whether that's be creating his own shot or taking attempts off a catch and shoot. I buy the offensive side, but the defense is a little questionable. He'll definitely need to add some strength, but I think just naturally the tools are there for him to figure out how to be a little more effective defensively. But a three-level scorer who can create for himself as well as others, I think is definitely something that's on the table. My number 13 shooting guard is Jackson Robinson. I think Jackson Robinson hasn't gotten the credit that he deserves as one of the better shooters in this class. Kind of a weird season for him at BYU. He was a super effective scorer, one of their best, if not their best scoring options, but he was asked to come off the bench. But I think that he really broke out for himself during March Madness this year. If he catches fire, it's almost impossible to get his water turned off. He is a streaky shooter, but I buy the upside. I think he has great form, does a fantastic job of getting his feet set, especially on catch and shoot attempts. But I think a team would look to add him late second at best. But I buy the shooting. I think it can be really useful at the next level, and I hope to see him get an opportunity to show it. My number 12 shooting guard is Trey Alexander. Alexander really fits into that mold I was talking about at the start of this video of being a combo guard. I've been a big fan of him over the past few seasons. I think he's one of the more well-defined guard prospects in this class. I don't know just how much higher his upside is than what he currently has shown, but I think he's an effective NBA player, a really good option for a secondary creator. He will need to add strength, but I think especially right now while he's at the combine, he's showcasing that he's a versatile enough player to affect the game regardless of being able to overpower defenders. And plus, his wingspan is crazy, and that's always good going forward for guard prospects. My number 11 shooting guard is AJ Johnson. Johnson undoubtedly is a project player. He's still really raw, but has shown awesome flashes at both shooting, driving to the basket, as well as playmaking for others. I would not be shocked at all to see him go in the first round, But like I said, he's a big time project, has quite a ways to go, but the ceiling is really high, and the flashes that he shows all over the court are something that I think can pretty easily be built on. It may just take a little longer than a lot of teams may like. My number 10 shooting guard is Cam Spencer. I think Cam Spencer is already, as early as year one, about as solid as a role player as you can find. He's an active defender, doesn't have great size, but uses what he has to the best visibility. Super smart player, especially with passing. He's one of the better movement shooters, in my opinion, in this class. He's got a quick release, high release, does a good job of getting his feet set. All in all, I think he's going to stick around for a long time. May never be anything too special, but a piece that every team would like to have. My number 9 shooting guard is Jamir Watkins. I think Watkins has great physical tools to continue developing and be a all-around great 3-and-D player at the NBA level. He does need to finish rounding out his NBA game. I think that he has good feel for playmaking for others, but takes a little too many risks at the moment. And, whenever he gets asked to do not as much in the NBA, I think that could really help him. I also think he's a plus athlete, both on offense and defense. He's aggressive, uses his strength and length, but I think all in all, he's still a little bit raw, but has the tools to continue developing and expanding his game at the next level. My number 8 shooting guard is Hunter Sallis. I'm a big believer in Sallis, especially on the offensive end. He could be a scorer with the first group with a lot of teams, but I think he's best fit to be a 6-man type offensive firecracker off the bench. Defensively is kind of meh, but I don't think that's what he'd be drafted for. I think he has enough playmaking ability as well to kind of lead second units for teams, and all in all, I think he's a pretty safe option for offensive productivity, whether that be mid-first all the way down to mid-second, as far as where I could see him getting drafted. My number 7 shooting guard is Johnny Furphy. Furphy's a really young prospect, still pretty raw, but already has really good shooting mechanics. I think he gets a little underrated defensively and in terms of being a rebounder, and I think that those are things teams are going to value pretty highly with Furphy. It will really come down to a team banking on his upside, but I think that's a pretty good bet. A lot of his productivity in college, whenever it had fallen off, came from him being asked to become more of a first option. And I don't think that really fits his game. But as a role-playing 3-and-D shooter, I love the upside, love the potential, and think that teams are going to agree with me on that. My number 6 shooting guard is Jacoby Walter. I love Walter's upside. Offensively, I think he's really versatile, has shown flashes of being able to create shots for himself as well as knocking those tough jumpers down. Defensively, I have quite a few questions. I think he gets out of position pretty often, but overall, just using his athleticism on the defensive side, I think NBA teams will be able to make him more effective than what he was able to show at Baylor. But all in all, a really fun prospect, really intriguing upside on offense with quite a few question marks on defense. My number 5 shooting guard is Isaiah Collier. This is probably the closest thing to a point guard that I have in my shooting guard rankings, but I think the best option for him is to be a secondary creator for a team. He's super physical, a decent defender, has shown the ability to be a 3-level scorer. I think his upside is great, and I also think he's a relatively safe bet for getting picked in the top 10 potentially. But all in all, I think Collier has a lot of raw tools that are going to remain effective in the NBA. A lot of the things later on in the season came from him being asked to carry more of the offensive burden. And I think he did a great job with that, with definitely room to grow going forward. My number 4 shooting guard is Jaylon Tyson. I think Tyson has great size and athleticism for his position. I also think he's a pretty smart defender. He does take chances, but a lot of those times, those chances do pay off for him. I think the 3-and-D potential is definitely there, with a lot higher upside for a player of his age than you may expect. I'm a big buyer as well in his ability to play out of pick and rolls, and I think for a second or third option on an NBA team, that's super important, especially for a shooting guard who stands at 6'7". All in all, I love him. I'm a big fan and definitely buy the upside. My number 3 shooting guard is Jared McCain. McCain probably has my favorite shooting mechanics in this whole class. I love the versatility that he shoots with, whether that's creating for himself or taking shots off catch and shoot looks. I also think that he does more on offense than just shoot. I think his ability to attack the rim and footwork on the inside is really impressive, and maybe it's kind of flown under the radar a little more than you may expect from a prospect of his caliber. Defensively, nothing too special, but I do think it's passable. He's active and a good team defender, but I think that the offensive upside is what teams are going to be looking at with him, and I really buy into it and think that even if he is just 6'3", the shooting mechanics and quick release are going to remain effective and continue to improve as he gets older. My number 2 shooting guard is Reed Sheppard. Sheppard is a super well-rounded prospect. He's a really good athlete, super aggressive, and overall just understands the game super well. He is a little bit shorter, standing at just 6'3", but I think he's going to be able to continue being a very disruptive team defender, as well as improve in how he defends on ball. The jump shooting is absolutely something I buy. I don't think he's fantastic with creating his own three-point looks, but either catch and shoot opportunities or just taking a dribble out of a pump fake to create a tiny bit extra space for him, totally buy it. I think all in all, he may not have all-star upside, but I think throughout his career, he can be a super effective and super valuable third or fourth option on a good team. And just in general, I think he has the potential to go top 5, but we'll just have to see how that continues throughout the draft process. My number 1 shooting guard is Stephon Castle. We all know about the athleticism, defense, and size with Castle, but I buy the shooting more than a lot of people. Obviously, he didn't shoot it great at UConn, but I think the mechanics are not as bad as a lot of people think, and before getting to UConn, he was a much better perimeter shooter. My favorite thing about Castle's game is his footwork on the inside. I'm not making a direct comparison, but I do think the mid-range and high post scoring for Castle is kind of similar to SGA. I know that sounds crazy. I just see flashes and totally believe it. He's one of my favorite players in this class. I get him falling to maybe pick 6 or 7 based off of fit more than anything else, but if I were drafting, I would care a lot less with fit with Castle. Bring him in and just get it figured out. That's going to wrap up my top 15 shooting guards. Be sure to like and comment whatever you may have thought. Follow us on Twitter at @plusbball, or check out our website at plusbasketball.net. But this is Jace. Thanks for watching Plus Basketball.